Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Racing Angle. This um episode is titled "By the Time I Get to Phoenix," after the Glenn Campbell song. Um, this is episode 14. You might be wondering, why is Peyton doing this? And where's Logan? Logan will be here soon. Uh, but the show goes on. The show goes on at 7. So here I am, and you're stuck with me until Logan gets here. And so we're going to get into our race week rewind. So, the NASCAR Cup Series was in Phoenix this week. Ryan Blaney won, my favorite driver. I have him everywhere. Oh, and would you look at that? Logan's here. He's here to save me. Give me just 1 second.
How we doing, people? I see producer Peyton Lore in here doing the thing. Sorry, I ran a little behind getting ready. I thought you was gonna wait for me, to be honest with you. But
The show goes on at 7.
the show goes on at 7. All right. Well,
The great Kevin Rouse said, "Don't ever be late."
he did say that. So, all right. So, what do you say we get into? What do you say we start fresh and hit a little race week rewind?
Forget everything I just did.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye. All right, let's start fresh and welcome, folks, to another edition of the Racing Angle. I'm Logan Morris. Thank you for your patience with me. All right, first I want to address why I missed. Boy, it was sharp, all right. First I want to address why I missed last week. Missed last week because, as my dog says hi, and missed last week because my brother last Tuesday went into a serious medical event that was nearly catastrophic. I don't want to get into specifics because I don't know what he'd like people to know versus what he doesn't want people to know. That's all. He had a serious medical event last Tuesday, and it did not look good at all in terms of his long-term prognosis on if he would even be here by this week. As it turns out, he has turned the corner thanks to wonderful medical care and, most importantly, prayers and the grace of God. And so he has turned the corner. He is improving slowly but surely. He has a long journey ahead. But we think that he's pretty much out of the circle in the drain phase and should be okay. So that is why, obviously, took place last Tuesday. It was very uncertain as far as his long-term prognosis. And so we decided to take a week for obvious reasons, mentally, and to see how it would all play out. All right. With that, I just want to address that before we get too far. With that, let's get into our race week rewind. Alrighty, we come off Phoenix, and Ryan Blaney, as producer Peyton said, got it done. And yes, that is her favorite driver. He's also the first driver not named Tyler Reddick to get a win this season, so that was in some ways thrilling to see. Now you might say, well, Logan, pray tell, how could you tell us about Phoenix when dealing with your brother? I watched it in his hospital room, folks, because I am committed to NASCAR, and I'm committed to racing, and most importantly, I'm committed to you. I'm committed to you, you fine folks. And so let's talk about Phoenix. Ryan Blaney did win. Uh, it ends the Tyler Reddick streak, winning the first three in a row. Um, and as cool as Tyler Reddick's streak was, glad to see, glad to see that it wasn't another Tyler Reddick win. Nothing against Tyler Reddick, nothing against 2311. It's just in today's world, you need some parity. That's what people like, and so that's just the facts of it. Yes, I was reminded 7 p.m. sharp. Blaney, he had fighting. Yeah, well, he did earn that win. Of course, not overly surprising, right? He is great at Phoenix. He's been great at Phoenix for a long time. It's a strong Penske track. We've seen that. We have seen that time and time again, and so obviously they've won the championship there a lot, and so we're not overly surprised that Penske looked great, right? You could have called this Penske Power. As Penske looked incredible. And I'm not overly surprised. They've done well. They've done extremely well in at Phoenix. We saw them win, I believe, 3 straight championships, right? And so Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney, and they just Ford has a nice stranglehold on Phoenix. That's right, Marley. It is such a Penske heavy track. It is. It's good for all the Fords, and so again, not surprising that he won Phoenix, but still a win's a win, and they're damn hard to get in NASCAR these days. They were damn hard to get in any era for that matter, but they're really hard right now. He won stage 1. Christopher Bell won stage 2. Christopher Bell nearly had a dub himself. I know my boy Justin Seeger running on scuffs was bated breath, hoping his main man Christopher Bell would get it done. Wasn't to be, but he'll get plenty of wins throughout the year, I'm sure. Christopher Bell is just one of those guys that he's going to win. No worries, no qualms on that. It was a great finish, really, to that race. Great finish to see two cars like Bell and Blaney, and I mean, just going for it. And Bell couldn't get past him, as Marley said. And sometimes it ain't your day. Sometimes you ain't got the car. Sometimes you ain't got the lap. Sometimes the situation just doesn't line up for you. It is what it is. Still nothing to be ashamed of by any stretch. The race fell into some lulls at certain moments, but I really enjoyed the different horsepower package. I thought it really helped, and frankly, the tire issues gave Phoenix some life, some much needed life. We know the Phoenix can be a little dull, and so overall, I really thought this was a solid race. Yes, always stinks to see people have mechanical issues or tire issues or that, but that uncertainty waiting around every corner really, I thought, added a layer of uncertainty, and I thought it added a layer of drama that I think that Phoenix needed. Because let's be honest, Phoenix is not always the most exciting track. So I think between the horsepower and those issues, one of the better Phoenix races we've watched in some time. In my opinion. That's just my take. I want to know yours down in the comments below. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you so much. There's good days abound to talk about. Eric Jones got a top 10 for Legacy Motor Club, his first top 10 of the season. So nice to see them do their thing and have a nice rebound. Chase Briscoe continues to struggle early, and this is where this new point system is concerning for someone like Chase Briscoe, who's not off to a hot start. There is no more winning you're in. Once you're in the hole, you're in the hole. Doesn't mean you can't climb out of it. Don't get me wrong. We have a long way to go. I'm talking about we'll all age 20 years in the next. Uh, it, it we'll all race. We'll all age 20 years, and how long NASCAR seasons take. And I'm not complaining. Like I love how long the season is. But no need to hit the panic button for Sonali Briscoe yet. Marley said she only watched 20 laps. She said she's going to be honest, she was taking a nap. Phoenix has always been a dull race for her personally. I have it on good authority, Marley, that you like a good nap during a lot of NASCAR races. I ain't judging. Our producer likes to do the same thing. Likes to cat nap a little bit on the stage 1 and 2 and kind of be ready for the finish. I'm working on getting her through every mile, folks. I'm working on it. Takes time. Takes time. Uh, yeah, look, I don't think Phoenix is some super exciting. You know, I don't think it's some super exciting track. I think it's a good market. That's why I like that they still go there twice a year. They sell well out of Phoenix, and that's important because again, it's a good market. It's a good area. Freddie says Phoenix wasn't a terrible weekend, but he's seen better races there before. Certainly, I would agree with that. Absolutely, absolutely. I'm not saying this is the best Phoenix race of all time. I just think that it's become a bit of a bit of a dull strategy track, and if strategy and pit strategy is not your thing, they can be tough to get through. Again, that's not a knock to Phoenix. Every track has got its own personality, its own characteristics, and not every track is going to be the most exciting. Not every race is going to be the most exciting because if it was exciting all the time, then it's not exciting anymore. What makes exciting is different. Here's why something is exciting. It's different. It gets your blood pumping. Not every race is going to be that, and that's okay. Frankly, I don't need to have a blood pressure raiser every single week. Well, we all want you know we all want the game winning touchdown at the last 5 seconds. We all want Patrick Mahomes to throw for 30 yards and he won the game to Travis Kelsey. But if it happened every week, it's not exciting anymore. Standard. And personally, I think if cars are going, I don't know, bazooka fast, life threatening fast in a normal world, that's pretty exciting. What it is it's a testament to how great these drivers are. It's a testament how great they are. The fact that they can make again what is typically life threatening speeds seem dull, mundane, says how great they are. And again, not every track is going to be gangbusters. Because then it's not exciting anymore, it just becomes standard. That's just how it is. If it became all the time, it's not special. So I thought Phoenix was good. Like I said, I think was there certain walls? Absolutely. I'm not arguing that. That's not yeah, I think there were points where if you weren't a diehard, you could have hit the snooze button, so to speak. But it isn't always going to be super duper exciting, and that's okay. Phoenix in the Nopes, the NASCAR Riley Series. Justin Allgaier got it done. Sammy Smith won stage one. Jesse Love won stage two. RCR continues to look strong down there, but Junior Motorsports does what Junior Motorsports does now. They're the kind of the Hendrick Motorsports of the what is now the O'Reilly Series. So Justin Allgaier going to get we're going to talk more about that. Going to get a cup opportunity this weekend, subbing in for Alex Bowman. And so it was a great weekend in Phoenix overall. I thought, you got the IndyCar double, you got the IndyCar NASCAR double. Pardon me. You got the O'Reilly Series. I think fans got their money's worth. And that's what it's all about. Again, was it always super duper exciting? No, I get that, but it is the way it is. All right, let's talk a little NHRA for a second. Top Fuel, Josh Hart got it done. Of course, in his his John Force Racing debut. Funny car Chad Green took care of business. Pro Stop Matt Hartford and then Pro Stop Motorcycle Richard Gatson continued essentially the run he's been on since last season. The Top Fuel All-Star call-out, Antron Brown got it done. AB is always Mr. Personality. But here's what I want to focus on. Austin Prock failed to qualify for race day for the first time in his career. Now, you can't overstate a few things. What a disappointment this is for Austin Prock. He was John Force Racing, and he won back-to-back championships in the funny car. And he comes off that, and he makes the humongous, insane move to Tasca Racing, driving for BT3. And then the first race of the year, he doesn't make race day, doesn't make the show. For any of you that are new to the NHRA, if you don't crack that top 16, you're not in terms of qualifying. If you don't qualify in the top 16 in funny car, you are not making the show on race day. It does not matter if you've won 10 straight championships. Doesn't matter if you're John Force. Doesn't matter who it is. You are not making the show if you don't crack that top 16. And so for the back-to-back defending funny car winner, champion, to not make the show is bad enough. That's a tough weekend. You add that to this is the Tasca Racing debut. I can't overstate just what a big swing and a miss that is. Now, let me be fair. This is one weekend. That's all it is. It does not mean that Tasca made the wrong decision. It does not mean the Proc made the wrong decision. It does not mean any of those things. And if anyone says otherwise, it's way too soon to say that. That is on Pat McAfee's show, they call that Overreaction Monday, because that's what that would be. But boy, you talk about all the hype, all the press, all the scuttlebutt when it came to Austin Prock going to Tasca Racing. And again, man, it does not mean this isn't going to work. It does, and I think it will work. I think he's still going to compete for the Funny Car Championship this year. Absolutely. I think it just shows it takes time. I think it shows that it is not easy to move your operations that way and head to any other team. And it takes time to get in the groove. But you also can't overstate what a gut punch that had to be for Proc and the Proc family and Bob Tasca III. All the hype, all the press. I mean, Bob moves out of the seat for Austin Proc to have this funny car, and he doesn't make the show the first weekend of the year. That is, I don't care how you slide it. That's tough. But don't overreact to that. It is one weekend. We have seen great drivers, great teams fail. I mean, that's other than Austin Proc, you're failing most of the time in NHRA. That's just the way it goes. It is. It's just the way it goes. What I want to do, I want to take a quick break here. And then when I come back, we'll talk a little bit of the IndyCar, the F1. Then we'll get into some hot lap headlines. And so I'm going to take a quick break, grab a quick beverage, settle in. We're not done yet. We're not even close. Much more to talk about here on the Racing Angle, whether that be NASCAR, whether that be NHRA. We got a ton of things to chat about, and we will do that. But let's take a quick break. Let's put let's throw a caution flag in the air, and we'll be right back. Don't move a move. Tired of missing that big play? Fed up with waiting hours for the wrap-up? The local scene deserves more. Heart-pounding. Game-changing. Homegrown. C-Bus Sports. C-Bus Sports brings you live updates in
in-depth analysis, and local athlete spotlights all in one place. From high school to pro, they cover the games that matter to you. Get inside access from the locker room to the starting line. Meet the players that Columbus roots for. This is more than sport, it's our community. It's every kid in cleats, every team in the stands, and every fan who bleeds their colors. C-Bus Sports is here for the passion, the pride, and the hometown story. Go to cbusports.com today and be the first in the know. C-Bus Sports. The game doesn't wait, and neither should you.
All right, welcome back to the Racing Angle. And we've broken down the Cups. We've broken down O'Reilly. We've broken down some NHRA. Maddie Gordon made it into her first semifinals. Maddie Gordon running for Ron Capps. There's been a lot of talk about her over the last couple of years, and she's been on the stratosphere to stardom, and she started out strong with Ron Capps Motorsports, running the top fuel category. So good for her. In IndyCar, Joseph Newgarden got it done. That makes what's interesting about all this is for the first time in a couple of years, IndyCar has a new points leader. And because Alex Palou has just been on such a run, and he shows very little sign of slowing down. But for 1 week at least, Joseph Newgarden gets it done. In F1, they were in Australia. George Russell wins. And so this was their first race on Apple TV, the new TV deal, and all that sort of thing. And so it's going to be very interesting to see their numbers throughout the year compared to what they had at ESPN. 1 point IndyCar or F1, pardon me, was the fastest growing motorsport in America. Will that continue now that it's behind a paywall? Great question. Not one I can fully answer at this point. I'm inclined to say no. I think going to a paywall is a risky move for a series and a brand and a motorsport that was on the upswing. But obviously money talks and everything else rides the bus. So that's the way it kind of goes. We'll see how it shakes out. All right, let's get into some hot lap headlines. All right, hot lap headlines for those of you tuning in for the first time. That is where we just break down some of the news of the week. And let's start there. Alex Bowman is going to miss another race due to vertigo. Anthony Alfredo is subbed in at Phoenix, and Justin Allgaier will sub this weekend in Las Vegas. Makes a lot of sense to me. They're a pretty similar fit in the seat, from what I understand. The few times that Bowman has been out before, Allgaier's usually been the first choice for that reason. And obviously, he's a junior motorsports HMS staple, and so it makes sense that would be the first call for both his physical attributes, and he's just been a lifer, right? He's a veteran. There's not a situation you could put him in that he's not prepared for. Maybe he'll never, he's clearly not ever going to be a full-time Cup guy. That's just not his thing. That's just not his role. That's just not any of those things. But he is a veteran, and he is capable behind the wheel. And again, he has a pretty similar fit to Alex Bowman, I believe, in the seat, and that's a lot less work for the team. And when you're trying to prep and get out to Las Vegas, that means more than you think. Freddie says top 15 be a good day for Justin on Sunday. I agree. I think if he brings it home top 15, I don't think Mr. H could complain a bit. I don't know if he could complain anyway, but if he brings it home top 15, that might be like a win in this situation. Concerning to see Bowman miss time of vertigo, obviously it's a different thing than what Dale Jr. dealt with over the course of the back half of his career, but it still kind of conjures up those memories, right? That's how he got the opportunity at HMS. He split the ride between him and Jeff Gordon when Dale Jr. suffered from concussion-like symptoms for an extended period of time. And so vertigo is different, right? But you just the last thing that Alex Bowman needs for his career right now. Obviously, health is the most important thing. And credit to him for being upfront about it, and credit to him to not hide it. In the old days, some of these guys might have said, "I'm good," you know, because let's be honest, he's under a lot of pressure right now. I talked about it early on in the year. We know that Alex Bowman is under a bit of a microscope as far as what he does at Hendrick. Some people are wondering if it's time to move on. Some people are wondering if this relationship has ran its course. And overall, it's been a very successful one for that matter. It's just he's a victim of the HMS standards because they are the top dog in the garage and have been since everybody here was biting ankles. And so he is a victim of that standard. And so this is the last thing he needs because again, health comes first and credit to him. But the old saying is out of sight, out of mind. And so it cannot be a worse time to have these kind of issues if you're Bowman when, like I said, there's some pressure, there's some people breathing down your neck, there's been a lot of talk for the last few years about, how does he keep his ride, such and such. Does he fit the Hendrick mold? Because Hendrick is win or bust, and that should be everybody's standard. But we all know Hendrick is a little more the big three: Hendrick, Penske, Gibbs. You have to win, and you have to win fairly consistently. You don't have to win every week, but a couple times a year, you need to certainly once to twice a year to really keep those rides. You need to win. And so it is the last thing that Alex Bowman needs to have any extended period of time off. Again, his health comes first. That is most important, and credit to him for being honest about it. But logistically, it's a business, and we all know where things stand with him, and as far as the rumor and innuendo portion of the sport, it's a tough swing at it. Now, in a couple weeks, he might come on back and win and make people like me just pipe down. He's capable of that. It's not like he's had an embarrassingly bad career. He has not had a bad career at all. He's a victim of the HMS standard. If he drove for 2311, we're not probably having this conversation. If he drove for Front Row, Legacy Motor Club, we're probably not having this conversation. If he drove for a colleague, probably not having this conversation. RCR, same thing. His problem, and it's a good problem to have, you're with a team that just demands results both on a personal level inside the garage and inside the shop. But we as media, we as fans, we go, why aren't you winning at Hendrick? It's Hendrick. Freddie says Bowman has to win at least a couple of races this year to keep his ride. I would say I still believe that. Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. With some big contracts coming up over the next year or two, I really do. I really believe that. 100%. And then he wants to speculate on where would Bowman go if he lost his ride. Sure, I'll entertain that. My first thought at this moment, I would think he's a good fit at RCR. We don't know the status of Kyle Busch's long-term time there. To me, and I don't know anything, I don't have any inside info, but it just feels like the Kyle Busch RCR relationship has ran its course. That does not mean I think Kyle Busch is done. I think Kyle Busch could still win. I think a lot of it's bad luck, and I don't think RCR produces the cars that they used to. I don't think Kyle Busch is in the conversation for best driver in the field anymore. But I don't think he's washed his all get out either. So let's say I've said frequently on the show, let's say Kyle Busch goes somewhere like Spire. Spire comes to mind because he's to our knowledge he's still a consultant there for the truck program. I could see Alex Bowman jumping in that 8 car, or if you wanted to renumber it for whatever reason, I could see Alex Bowman jumping in there. And frankly, I could see Alex Bowman doing fine. I think he could probably match, if not surpass, what Kyle Busch is doing, because Kyle Busch's RCR numbers are a wee bit skewed, because remember, the first 10 races he was there, he won like 3 of them. And credit to him, they all count. But since then, it's been a slog. Nothing embarrassing, nothing horrible. He's competed for playoff spots, sometimes coming up short, sometimes not. Like, it hasn't been bad. It just is. Again, it comes down to the standard you're used to. Kyle Busch set a standard to be one of the top 2 or 3 names in the garage. And some of that was certainly help from coach and that whole operation. But we know that Kyle Busch is he's probably the greatest of his generation. And so when we suddenly see that start to slip, we go, man, that guy's really washed. I don't know if that's the case or not. And you might say, well, look at the numbers, Logan. He definitely is. It's a new car. And when you've been in the game as long as Kyle Busch has, and I think you see it with Jimmy Johnson in his limited starts as well, are they washed, or are they just having to unlearn and relearn something they've known for decades? And you might think that's a distinction without a difference, but to me, it is a big difference. Washed is, it doesn't matter where you put him. Because I'll tell you right now, I think if you stuck Kyle Busch back at Gibbs, he'd win a few. You wouldn't win like he used to, but I think you'd win. Freddie says even if Bowman goes to Spire, yeah, I could see a world, because again, Spire continues to expand. They continue to want to move the needle forward, and it's a 1-year prove it deal by all the counts on Torres, and Torres is starting out okay, but again, as I mentioned earlier on the show, talking about guys like Briscoe, way too soon to say, hey, how your year's going to go. This will be a distant memory by the time we get to June, July, August, October, September, October, all that. It will be a distant memory, and maybe we can say, and we'll either say, boy, they got started hot. Remember, right around Phoenix, they were already rolling. Or we can say, boy, they started hot, but that feels like a lifetime ago. Don't believe me? We've seen that several times. I mean, Christopher Bell started out like gangbusters, and he had a great season last year, don't get me wrong. But he went through a summertime stretch where he was a bit of a lull. It's a long season. Don't make too much of anything right now. As I mentioned earlier, Justin Allgaier will sub in at Las Vegas. Again, I think it's a good opportunity for him. I do. I think it's a good opportunity. I don't think it means anything as far as could he be the guy. No, they're just playing a little plug and play at the moment. Monster Energy is considering a deal with Carson Hocevar, but nothing is official yet. I mean, look, I'm not ever going to be upset when Monster expands their palette in NASCAR or any other motorsport for that matter. They just signed a deal with one of the IHRA's series, and so I love that Monster Energy wants to support motorsports the way they do. And this points to Carson Hocevar's marketability that they would even consider such a thing. I don't have anything against Carson Hocevar. I think he is a very young, marketable, fun guy. I felt that way when he was driving for Legacy Motor Club that like half a season. I have something with the way he drives like a pissed off teenager acting like he owns all the track. But Apparently, a lot of people like that. And that's okay too. And that's okay. So that's all right too. I ain't mad at it. I ain't upset. So it is what it is. And if he's already got the Chili's deal, and again, he's young, he's marketable, and if he starts to find a way to win, he's gonna get a lot of deals. He will. He's gonna get a lot of deals. But winning is the key. That's the prove it, right? That's the prove it in the pudding. Because that's what this is all about. You can get all the partners, but the partners only stay if you win. It's a fickle business. Don't believe me? Jimmy Johnson won 7 championships for Lowe's. By the end of his career, which was not some embarrassment, by the way, it was not some hung on way too long Richard Petty-esque run. Lowe's dropped him. Lowe's said, we'll see you. 7 championships wasn't enough. And so, you think about that. That's what Coach Arsenault needs to be the next big star in NASCAR. Whether I like his driving style or not, he has all the attributes as far as personality goes. Because I don't like his driving style. I think it's emotional. I think it's like a pissed off teenager. I think it's immature most of the time. But he is talented and he is marketable and he's got personality in an era that we're starved for it. And so credit to him for that. But winning is the key. And so until he wins with some level of consistency, and I don't mean that he's got to be Jimmy Johnson or Kyle Busch or Richard Petty or Denny Hamlin or pick a name out of your hat. But he needs to win some before I'm Monster Energy and I go, you know what? That's our man. But that's just my take. I don't know business and figures, but I do know how fickle it is if you don't win. Because again, Lowe's dropped Jimmy Johnson. Kyle Busch couldn't find sponsorship, which is why he's at RCR. And I know how the last several seasons have gone for Kyle Busch. But there was no reason he couldn't find sponsorship at Joe Gibbs. The pedigree was there. He was still winning all that consistently. He was certainly still marketable. He was certainly still giving quotable moments. Not that he doesn't occasionally still do that now, but he was doing it on a much more consistent clip. Very, very odd. So, Brad Kay mentioned that with the old playoff system, drivers on big multi-car teams would get less attention once they locked themselves in. Yeah, I would think so, from running on scuffs. I think that's very possible because, we all know that sometimes you turn a car into a test car, right? Sometimes you go, let's experiment. Sometimes you go, let's try this, let's try that. Where with the old system, once you're in, you're in. Once you've got your cushion, once you've got your dub, you're in. And so you could kind of take 2 weeks off. You could kind of, and I'm talking 2 weeks off mentally in terms of the prep, or let's try this. Let's take a wild swing and see if somehow this works. And so maybe that did cause Christopher Bell's kind of, summertime lull. Again, still had a great season. Still had a season that nearly every driver in the field would pay money for. And so, I think that is probably a difference between this era and the previous one. Is there will be times in the past where, man, they're really struggling. Did they try to do this or do that? We saw that with the playoff rounds. Pardon me. There would be times where they just, we knew they were locked in, and so they would go into essentially what felt like the Federal Witness Protection Program over the next 2 weeks until you got to the next round. because you're already locked in the next round. And so that might be for all the Chase haters or all the playoff lovers, or that might be a plus to this for all the ones that are, because there is a sizable swath of fans, ladies and gentlemen, that are not thrilled about this move to a chase format. I don't think the majority, but it's a sizable swath. And so that might be a plus for everybody, is that hopefully this pushes more consistent effort and more every race really mattering and meaning something. So yeah, that's just my thought. Cletus McFarlane is going to make his NASCAR O'Reilly Series debut at Rockingham. I got to tell you, I don't like this. He's had a cup of coffee in ARCA. He has done one Truck Series start that lasted all the 5 minutes. This is the epitome of what is wrong a lot of times today with NASCAR, with motorsports, is like, oh, and I think Cletus McFarlane is great for the sport. I think he's great for the sport. I think he gets attention where other people don't, and he makes people, because his YouTube channel is sizable, and certainly for a Truck Series race and an ARCA race, his reach is huge for those brands, and probably for the O'Reilly Series too. I'd have to really crunch the numbers, but probably for the O'Reilly Series too, not so much the Cup. He's had a cup of coffee in ARCA. Like I said, he's had one truck start that objectively didn't go well. He made a mistake. He was honest about it. Not a problem. Whatever. This is way rushing the process, and this is desperation from RCR, from his sponsors, from him. This is way too soon. Way too soon. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's this. Yeah, it's that. I'm not knocking any of those things. There is nothing on his resume that says, put me in the second highest series that NASCAR has to offer. Nothing. He could do some more truck starts, and then maybe I'd feel differently. He could do some more ARCA starts where he has some real success. He's just kind of tread water in his ARCA time. We ain't talking much about Cletus McFarlane's racing stats. We're talking about his YouTube channel. We're talking about his close relationship with Greg Biffle. We're talking about his love of bald eagles and saying hell yeah and all that. And that's great. That's awesome. That's fun. I think he's great. But he doesn't deserve this opportunity based on that. Sorry. Call me the fun police. Call me Ebenezer. I think it's way too soon, and I think this is a absolutely foolish decision by all involved, except for Cletus McFarlane. Because if I was going to get offered a NASCAR O'Reilly Series auto parts ride, I would take it too. But everybody else that is enabling that to happen, I think that is utterly foolish. I think that is incompetent. I think that is get your head examined. Now, maybe he goes out and shocks us and gets the top 5 at Rockingham, and I look like a fool. And that'd be great because that's great for the sport. But there is nothing on his resume right now that warrants this at all. And why are we rushing the process anyway? Is it a problem with him being out of trucks? Not for me. It makes people tune in. Is it a problem with him being in ARCA? Not for me. It would make people tune in. Let me see some real success. I'm not even asking for wins. I'm asking for competing for wins. There is a difference. Ty Gibbs has competed for a lot of wins. Cletus McFarlane really hadn't. And the people that don't think this is silly, if it was a personality you didn't care for, you'd say what the hell? A little soon. I mean, frankly, let's be real about it. On a racing standard, Natalie Decker has more of a deserving resume. She has way more time in the seat. Freddie says, do I like the idea of Cletus being a part of NASCAR? Yes. But do I think it's way too early? Yeah, absolutely. 100%. 100%. Like I said, right now, Natalie Decker has got more of a deserving resume because she just has way more seat time. This is just a microcosm of what's wrong in motorsports. Why is it that, and I'm not saying Cletus McFarland might be an all-time great someday, but he ain't right now. Folks. Not now. Not at this moment. Nope. He's not. He is not at all. I mean, like you said, I'm not mad at him. If somebody offered me that ride, I'd take it too. You'd be a fool. All right. Timmy Hill is driving for Garage 66 in the Cup race. Look, still great to see Garage 66 MBM out there. I know some people say, well, what's the point of these field fillers? Look, they're working as hard as anybody and frankly harder than anybody to get to where they got to go. So I'm not upset about it. Good for them. But that's just my take. What's yours? Yes, they're a field filler, no doubt. But Timmy Hill is lovable, and they're working hard at MBM, Carl Long, Garage 66, whatever you want to call them. And so good for them. Let's move it along a little bit. Let's get to some checkered thoughts. All right, this week's Checkered Thoughts comes from Nick Sanchez. He reflected on his Sutton split from Big Machine Racing. He joined AM Racing, as we know. He said, it's a business, and someone came in with a bigger check. He, and of course he's referring to Dr. Patrick Starpoli, probably a great guy, but I know he doesn't have the credentials or the capability that I have as a race car driver. Every team needs to sit down and think of what their goals and aspirations are. They made their bed and did what they wanted to do. Completely agree. There are way too many, oh, we bought and paid for this seat. Oh, well, he's got this. Well, he's got that. What about talent? Why doesn't that mean anything? It's a networking world. I get it. You know, that's what's going to make this brand bigger is good networking. Consistent hard work, don't get me wrong. And great people like you that subscribe. But it is a networking world, and it's not what you know, it's who you know, and I respect that. Like, I respect that that's the way it is. I think it sucks because there's just not a world where Nick Sanchez versus Dr. Patrick Starpoli, as a NASCAR driver, there's no comparison. I mean, it's like it would be like if the Chicago White Sox started Michael Jordan in their outfield because he was Michael Jordan. Why does this only happen in motorsports? It is the only major professional sport where we can just buy our way to a respectable ride and push out a guy who talent-wise is probably more deserving. The only thing that compares besides NASCAR, besides motorsports, is pro wrestling, and pro wrestling to work. Pro wrestling is a work. So as much as it might be silly to see someone like, I don't know, Jelly Roll have wrestling matches, nothing against Jelly Roll, but it is silly to see him have wrestling matches. It's a work. It's a show. It's a gimmick. That's not what racing is supposed to be. That is not what racing is supposed to be at all. Why can they just come? It's the same thing I was talking about earlier. It just with Cletus McFarland. Why? Why is that the way? Why is that okay? Why is that fine? Why? I get that it's a networking world. I get that a lot of times when you get to a certain point, at a certain plateau in life, it's no longer about what you know, it's who you know. But these are supposed to be the greatest drivers in the damn world at what they do in every single motorsports discipline there is. And we got people just buying rides. Who cares if you can't finish 29th? And we got guys that twiddle away because they're not marketable. Why? I know, got to pay the bills, but and I do respect that that's the way the world works. But we have lost the plot here between Cletus McFarland, between Nick Sanchez and Dr. Patrick Sharpoli, and I have nothing against any of these gentlemen. I'd love the opportunity to sit down and talk to them, and if they'd ever want to come on the show, that'd be great. I hope that someday happens. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody. I don't fault Dr. Sharpoli for wanting his opportunity. Ain't mad at him. I'm talking about the system. I'm not mad at Cletus McFarland. I'm talking about the system that rewards name value or brand value or this sponsor value over can you drive a car and can you compete to win, because that's supposed to be the point of this thing. Well, you're not going to win every race. I get it. All right. Not in today's era, especially. But if you can't even think about competing for wins at some point, what are we doing? If the goal is to not get to a point where we can compete for wins, we have lost the plot on why we race. And that's a major issue. That's a bigger issue in itself. But nonetheless, we got to move it along. Let's look at our lap ahead and bring in producer Peyton for some picks. All right, so let's get to it. Let's bring in producer Peyton. Let's make some picks. I know she pretty much used up her quota of how often she's on the show for the week, but we got to bring her back. How you doing, producer Peyton?
I'm great. I'm glad I'm not hosting.
Me too. Not think you didn't do a great job there in your few minutes. I can't wait to go back and really look at it fully. I'm sure it's going to be in the best of highlight reels we get towards the end of the season. Can't wait for that. All right, the Cup and O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, they're in Las Vegas. Let's start there. I'm gonna in the Cup race at Vegas. Who you got?
I'm going to take Joey Logano.
Makes a lot of sense. It is Las Vegas. That's a strong track for them. I'm going to take Kyle Larson. He's great at Las Vegas as well. If you look at the numbers, I think he gets Chevrolet on the board as far as wins go, and he gets HMS getting it done. So, and then talk to me about the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, would you please? Who you got?
I am going to take Connor Zilic.
All right, Connor Zilic. I'll take Justin Allgaier going back to back. I think he's going everywhere, and I think he's about to go on a nice little run. I'll take Allgaier going back to back. All right, F1 is in China. Do you want to make a pick there, or do you want to just move it along?
I don't know much about F1.
I know that you don't, but you got it here. So, but I'll take George Russell to go back to back.
I agree.
Okay. What about IndyCar? What about Arlington? Do you have a pick there?
Alex Palou.
Okay, I think that works. I'll take the 6-time champ Scott Dixon. Trans Am is at Road Atlanta. Their entry list is always so fluctuating week to week. I'm not going to make a prediction on that. But always keep an eye on Paul Menard. He's running the Trans Am series quite a bit these days, and so and Matthew Bradham, he was strong 2 weeks ago. But it's great to have a full weekend of motorsports, and we're in that great time of year where you need 15 screens to really watch everything you want to watch, and so we love that. With that, what do you say we take our final lap?
If I can find the button.
All right. So after last week, we're back. We will be back next week. Again, my brother, thank God, is pulling through and appears to be on the in the recovery phase now of his incident. And I just want to again thank everybody for their well wishes and their messages. It has been overwhelming to say the least. It has been heartwarming to say the least, and it's been one hell of a week. But we thank God and we thank the fine doctors that are working on him. Again, I don't want to give too much info just because I don't know what he would want out there. I doubt he would care, but I didn't ask him when I saw him today, and so I don't feel right, divulging all his tea, as the young kids say, right? So, Producer Peyton, any final words before we bid farewell?
I too am glad that your brother is doing better. It wasn't looking good there for a minute. We've been up at the hospital every day since it happened, so it has been a heck of a week. Um, I appreciate everybody's understanding of no show last week, and I look forward to Vegas.
Absolutely, we have so much to talk about when we get to Vegas, and just so much motorsports, and we look forward to talking all next week. But again, a sincere thank you to everybody that watches this podcast, and a sincere thank you to everybody that has sent well wishes and positive thoughts and prayers and good vibes to our family and my brother. And if you would continue to keep him in your thoughts and your prayers and your good vibes, whatever you believe in, we greatly appreciate it. Until next time, that's been producer Peyton, who subbed in for me for a few minutes. I've been Logan Morris. I was running behind, but I was getting there, and we gave you the best we could this week. And until next week, we'll see you at the next track.